Welcome friends to Breakfast in the Ruins, a Michael Moorcock flavoured podcast. This show is a slight departure from the last couple of years' birthday shows. Previously, Phil and I have holed up in a hotel somewhere full of food and victuals and recorded on the actual day of Hare and Mike's birthday. That hasn't been possible this year, so instead Loz and I got together, virtually of course, to do a general look back and review of the past 2 years and a bit of podcasting. Talk about what we've been up to in terms of reading and watching genre fiction, and just generally bang on about whatever springs to mind along the way as we stray from our hastily assembled agenda. So, from that perspective at least, business as usual. And we also had a few liveners while we're at it, naturally. So, Mike turns 82 the day this show comes out, and he's still full of vigour and creative energy, and that makes us very happy indeed, and we touch on some of his upcoming releases. And it's Phil's birthday, of course. As this is uploaded, we'll be on the west coast of England, wandering along a windswept beach, and wondering where to forage for sustenance. Just to timestamp this for future listeners, Omicron is about 3 or 4 weeks old here in the UK and is exploding in terms of infections. So we won't be doing our usual 3 to 5 course birthday dinner and a bottle or 3 of wine at some fabulous coastal restaurant. We might end up eating fish and chips in the open air, or even taking a load of boozy swag back to our rooms to get frazzled and watch some crap movie on the box. After all, when the world is ending, we should all just go home and watch it on the telly. Either way, I'm sure you'll all join me in wishing Phil and Mike the happiest of birthdays, because just being together, reading, and celebrating each other and our friends, that's the trick, isn't it? Everything else is trimmings. So sit back, relax, don't worry about the bloody IT issues, and join Loz and I in Derry Toms as we drink some stupid stouts and talk all kinds of bollocks about the last couple of years of breakfasting in the ruins. IT fail. I was just explaining that Lord Samper recorded a birthday message and wished us a happy birthday on the podcast. So we just decided at that point that it would formally be the podcast's birthday. So the birthday episode on the 8th of December now is Happy Birthday Phil, Happy Birthday Michael Moorcock, who turns 82, and 82, and Happy Birthday to the podcast, even though it's a little bit more than 2 years. So we decided that we would have, not a review of the year as such, but reflections on the last couple of years of the podcast, but the last couple of years, because of course we've been podcasting during a pandemic. Oh, remember those early days of podcasting face-to-face.
Crazy times.
Salad days. Halcyon days. Yeah.
Never did we dream we'd be locked up for 2 years.
Yeah, but, you know, I think as is traditional, we'll kick off. We've got ourselves sort of an agenda, but I think we'll kick off with a beer. A traditional stupid beer. Now, there's a little bit of variation in the stupidity, and we've got 5 beers each, 3 of which we have the same beer, 2 of them are wild cards. So we've popped them onto the Wandering Beer table, and I think it's only fair, Loz, as you have guessed, that you should roll first of all to see what we're going to drink first.
Let's pray.
Do it.
To the gods of beer.
Yeah.
I've got a 12.
You got a 12. So 12 is, if I just refer back to the list that we hastily wrote a short while ago.
The Wandering Beer table.
The Wandering Beer table is... Oh, we're starting with the palate cleanser.
Referee.
So, we'd shoved in a palate cleanser because we've got some rather interesting beers here. And as it happens, we're having to start with a palate cleanser. I'm going to read. This is a Brewery Strawberry and Cucumber Sour. And the label says, inspired by the typical flavours of a British summertime, we've used strawberry and cucumber to create a sour beer aimed to enjoy all year round. Strawberry adds a fresh sweetness, while the cucumber adds a refreshing and cooling balance to the tartness of the sour beer. And it's by Brewery. So
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah. So the idea was, because we've got some rather probably syrupy beers, was to have a nice palate cleanser. But everything's instantly gone wrong because we're starting with the palate cleanser. And I don't know how that bodes for later on, but let's get it cracked and find out. And, of course, the pour. Yep, it looks like...
Well, I don't know about you. I'm currently sat in my kitchen in Manchester.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, this is a summer drink. I'm currently pissing down.
Yeah.
A pitter-patter of rain on the patio doors, which is nice.
Whereas I am sitting in my grand study, a.k.a. box room, in in Shez, Phil and Andy in Bradford. But let's give this a go anyway.
Strap in.
Yep, it tastes of cucumbers.
It really does, doesn't it?
Mm.
Which I don't really appreciate in a drink.
Yeah, but at least it's quite sharp, which I appreciate.
I was expecting it to be a lot worse than that. It's actually reasonably. I've only had one sip. Reasonably pleasant, you know.
Yeah. It's not as sour as some of these tend to be. No, it's actually okay. It's quite refreshing.
It's more cucumbery than strawberry, I would say.
Yeah, I don't taste strawberry at all. But well done, Brick Brewery. This is rather refreshing.
It is. Yeah. Probably would have been ideal after the debacles that we've got to drink later.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. But,
It is.
you know, at least this one will go down fairly easily.
Yeah, that's all right. Bravo, Brick Brewery.
Yeah. So 2 and a bit years of podcasting, 2 years and 2 months of podcasting, 35 episodes.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Last Christmas, I think just before Phil and I recorded on our birthday, we hit 10,000 downloads. And so that was 14 months. And 12 months later, we've just passed 25. And,
which is quite astonishing, isn't it? For, like, you know, some people just crapping on about stuff.
Just a couple of useless wankers just drinking beer and talking shit about stuff. Yeah. It's hardly academic, but it's just a little bit of good fun.
Yeah.
And that's really nice because, you know, we've got some fabulous patrons who... One of the best things about this, actually, is having made contact with such a lovely, like-minded group of people who are so up for what we're doing that they're chipping and basically help us pay for the hosting costs and everything else. It's absolutely great. And, of course, we've gamed with some of them. And, it's been really, really good. It's been really, really thoroughly rewarding. So what I thought we could do, I thought we would have a look at a breakdown of where our audience comes from, number one. And we've had a nice steady increase in listeners. Just over half of our listeners are in the UK, but nicely, 35% of them are in the USA. And,
really?
Yeah, and the other 20-odd% are all over the world. We've got a lot of listeners in France. Of course, Moorcock, very popular in France. We've got a lot
people
of listeners
from Hull, massively popular in France.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard. You know.
Funnily enough, somebody did comment on Facebook that they found our accents. I can't remember what they said. I'm not on Facebook, but Phil
abhorrent?
No, indeed, the opposite. What somebody said, I sometimes find it difficult to understand what they're saying. And another guy in America said, I think it's really soothing and warming. Oh.
Yeah, right.
We'll take it. Yeah.
Absolutely. That might be you instead of my shrill, high-pitched voice. Obviously.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, it's probably my dulcet tones.
Yeah. Well, my mate, when he listened to it, he thought you sounded like John Peel, which, you know.
Which I will take.
It's not bad, is it?
Yeah, I'll take that quite happily.
Yeah.
So we've got quite a few in New Zealand, Canada, Germany, and then, you know, we kind of vanish under 1%.
Sorry, I was hiccuping.
Oh. You know
it was the cucumber-based.
Yeah, I think hiccups are allowed. That first half a can went down really, really nicely. I know it's quite unusual to have a fizzy cucumber beer, but I think I really like it.
Yeah, I think I'd probably, definitely in summer, I'd patronise it, I think.
Yeah, I'd maybe even stick a slice of cucumber in it. You know,
That's
and hold
maybe a strawberry.
Yeah, hold my pinky up while I drink it.
Yeah, it has got a slight Pimm's kind of quality to it, I think.
You could stick this in a jug with a load of strawberries and bits of apple and cucumber. You know, like what them posh people do.
Yeah. Well, I've got a Pimm's jug. Amazing.
Oh. Well, so you've gone up in the world since you left Hull.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we use forks and everything. Not all the time, obviously. Not for soup. That would be stupid.
Yeah. So if I go all the way down to the countries where we've had one download.
Excellent.
We've got Thailand, Singapore, Saudi Arabia, Paraguay, Pakistan, Malaysia, Moldova, Macedonia, Montenegro, South Korea, Guernsey, Ethiopia, Algeria, Azerbaijan, and Taiwan. I'm rather disappointed in all those countries that it's only one, so we need to do something to reach out.
Well, I was going to say, all of those are my favourite countries. I don't know about you. Yeah.
You know what? I concur. We must.
Yes.
We must. Where's New Caledonia?
And that's Scotland.
I don't know.
Is that a country?
If someone had said New Caledonia, I would have thought it was out of Judge Dredd or something. New Caledonia.
Or Beach Boys song.
Yeah, we've had 4 downloads from the Åland Islands, which are just off Finland, I believe. That's quite cool. Yeah, quite happy with that. Come on, Åland Islands.
Yeah, exactly. Do you reckon these people just like accidentally downloaded it or something? They were trying to like order breakfast, maybe.
Yeah, I suspect
and then
so.
pressed the wrong button and went, "Oh, I best listen to it then."
Yeah, I suspect so. I reckon that Ruins is probably very similar to a breakfast cafe name in Sarajevo or something, and they were trying to order a table for breakfast. Yeah, very.
Or it's a breakfast kind of sandwich or something. It's like, I'll have a Ruin. It's very pleasant.
Yeah, also possible, but
yeah,
disappointing that they didn't stay for more. But
no,
you can't have everything. So we have a fairly broad listenership. And the really good thing about Spotify, having the podcast on Spotify, is you get audience demographics.
Really?
Which is kind of cool, yeah. Now, this...
Because I obviously don't know it, shall I take a guess?
Go on then. So what's the gender split of our listeners?
Ooh, I would say probably 80-20 male.
Close, but no cigar. It's 90% male. And
That's quite close.
Yep. 9% female.
Yep.
And 1% non-binary.
All right, okay.
Probably not entirely surprising.
No.
But it would be nice to try and address that somewhat.
Yeah.
So, because actually, I think we've got 40-odd patrons. We've got 2 of them are women. One is... transgender, I think. It'd be nice to have a little bit more diversity of people listening to us. But,
it would. I think it's probably goes back to the kind of demographic of fantasy stuff as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
fans of Moorcock, maybe. 90% men, I don't know. It could be mistaken.
I think there certainly are some female listeners. So we have a female listener in Greece. Shout out to Dinah Lister.
Cool.
How about age breakdown then?
Well,
this is probably a more difficult one to guess.
Yeah, when I've spoken to like a few of my friends who asked what the podcast was, I obviously mentioned it was Moorcock based, and they just looked a bit blank at me, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think I would say the lion's share would be 40 plus.
Yes.
Between 40 and 60, maybe.
Yeah. So, as follows, we have a breakdown of 50%, 45 to 59. Which is probably what we would roughly expect. That's our demographic, isn't it?
Yeah.
6%, interestingly, it says between 60 and 150, but doesn't break it down any further than that. So I'm hoping at least 4% of those are over 130. That would be kind of cool.
Which would be cool, wouldn't it? Yeah.
It would be cool. 12%, 35 to 44, 17%, 28 to 34, 8%, 23 to 27, and 8%, 18 to 22. So we do have a few younger listeners, but the lion's share...
Again, they were probably trying to order breakfast.
Yes, very probably.
In Finland. I don't know. I'm just guessing there.
Yeah, the lion's share are generally our demographic. And top 5 countries on Spotify. Number 1, United States. Number 2, United Kingdom. Number 3, Australia. Number 4, Denmark, which is cool. Number 5, Germany. And then we've got Sweden, Czech Republic, Finland, Ireland, Canada, Brazil. So, a fairly nice spread.
I was quite surprised about that, actually.
Yeah.
America being, like, first.
Strange things have been happening recently. The daily listenership has almost doubled, and we're getting occasional spikes. And I think USA listenership is going to overtake UK probably in the next month or two, because the lion's share of the last couple of months have been listeners in the USA. So obviously, I don't know. Maybe they think we're all Sean Bean or something. I don't know. It's a strange phenomenon, but I like it because actually 50% more United States listeners on Spotify than UK. So it depends on platform, it appears.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
And it being Spotify, it also tells you what artists are the most popular the 5 most popular artists amongst our listenership. So, any artists spring to mind?
I bet you I don't like any of them, is my guess.
Well, you might be surprised. So, first, Black Sabbath. Okay, fair enough. Second, the Beatles.
Is that just everybody likes the Beatles?
Maybe. Or it's because our listenership is as old as the Beatles.
Or actually
the Beatles. Yeah. Brian Eno.
Well, I like a bit of Brian.
Yeah.
He's not that rocking, but I like him for a bit of chilling.
Yeah. Slight surprise, Eminem.
I like Eminem.
Yeah. And finally, Blue Oyster Cult.
Which, weirdly, I have been playing Duck Fear the Reaper on loop at the moment. I was doing a Fall of Delta Green playlist.
Yeah.
And that was on it because it's just a very good song.
Yeah. So for our non-gaming listeners, what is Fall of Delta Green?
Well, it's a role-playing game based in the 60s where you play kind of FBI 60s agents investigating gnarly things.
And it's kind of a spin-off of Delta Green, the main RPG, which was originally a spin-off of Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah. So, I just thought I'd put together a playlist.
Yeah. So there you go. Some Spotify factoids. Now, in terms of our most popular episodes, this is possibly inevitable because they've been out the longest. But number one, in terms of downloads, is Elric of Melniboné Part 1.
Classic.
Actually, by quite some distance.
Is it?
Yeah. And The Dreaming City is second. But surprisingly, third and fourth, and not far behind The Dreaming City, are Wizardry and Wild Romance, which was only released probably 3 or 4 months ago.
Was that with Dirk?
I suspect that's the Dirk effect.
Yeah.
And Sven Hassel, Wheels of Terror Part 1.
Sven, yeah.
Yeah, so another surprise. And when you factor in YouTube listens and hours listened, it may surprise you to learn that, hands down, once all platforms are considered, the most popular episode of this podcast is the Wheels of Terror one.
Which is weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Closely followed by the Rats. So when you consider all platforms, the most popular 2 episodes are Wheels of Terror and last year's Halloween special on the Rats.
So what you're doing wrong is you're concentrating too much on Michael Moorcock, whereas you just need to do Rats and Sven Hassel.
Yeah, well, I think what it certainly evidences is that there is definitely a market for Sven Hassel and rat-related podcasting.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny that there is, Sven Hassel only wrote like 11, 12 books, and there isn't a Sven Hassel podcast out there. And I don't think there's a James Herbert podcast out there, although some podcasts have covered James Herbert books. So, yeah, one of those odd things.
Is that because you'd have to read a lot of James Herbert books?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Very probably.
For all the fans out there, all the best.
You'd run out of books quite quickly as well, because it's not like he wrote hundreds like Moorcock did.
No, I think I've read a couple. Did he do The Spear?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read The Spear.
Which would make a really good Delta Green game.
It would, yeah. I think we probably did that, to be honest, at some point. But yeah, the other thing I noticed about some of the podcasts, the crabs-based one, is how many books he wrote about giant crabs. Couldn't believe it. I mean, you'd think like one you could probably get away with, and people go, "Oh yeah, giant crabs, I'll have that." About 10 books later, it's like you need to move on to maybe prawns or something, or lobsters, some other crustaceans. Anyway,
yeah,
not read them. Obviously.
You know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what I say.
If you've got one idea, milk it for as long as you can.
Well, and to be fair to Guy, he probably wrote more books than Moorcock.
Were they mostly about crabs?
It was no. I think crabs probably accounted for maybe 8 to 10% of his output, if that. But no, we've recorded a Guy and Smith extra, which might come out before this or maybe just after. And he wrote all sorts of things, including things like Disney adaptations under a pseudonym.
Did he crowbar crabs into it?
I don't know, but
did he do Little Mermaid?
No, but he did do Song of the South. So
I think I know that one.
Yeah, Song of the South is the super controversial Disney film, which is not available because it's horrifically racist.
Amazing.
Yeah, but hopefully he crowbarred some giant crabs into there.
So. Yeah, well, just take away from the racism.
Yeah. So, We've talked a little bit about the podcast, and we're going to go on and reflect a little bit on the last couple of years, but I think it's time for the second roll on the Wandering Beer table.
Have you decked yours?
I have indeed. You could always put it aside and actually use some of it as a palate cleanser, as originally intended. But I am going to roll the giant D20 for the Wandering Beer table. And I have rolled a 9, which is the same beer, so I've got to roll again. I have rolled an 18, a critical.
Oh, no.
Yes, I have rolled a critical, and that means it's wildcard number 2. And in my case, that is, and I quote, a Heaven Bourbon BA Honeycomb Chocolate Stout at 12%.
To get the other one.
God's preserve me. So let's see what it says. So it says, the earthy warmth of oak and bourbon combine with the distinct sweetness of honeycomb and vanilla in this thick chocolate stout, aged in our single malt barrels for 6 months.
So I've gone for a Keys Caramel Fudge Stout Jack Daniels edition. So an Imperial Stout, clocking in at 11.5.
Oof.
Describing itself as, if I had my glasses, I could read it. That is what Master Brewer so-and-so, owner of the Pure... No, that's just the Pure and Craft section. Doesn't tell me a lot, actually. I think it's all on the front of the tin.
Right, so it's going to speak for itself straight out the glass.
Yeah, I've got a feeling. Ooh, it's like pouring treacle.
I must say, I'm looking at mine, and all I can think is if Swarthega made beer. All right, I'm going in.
Santa Maria.
Oh, really?
The humanity.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
Yeah, this is it's an acquired taste. I think it's probably the fairest thing to say about it. Does it is there a hint of bourbon? Yes, there is on the nose. Very much so. But it is very sweet, very syrupy. And God help us if this gets to room temperature, because it will be absolutely undrinkable.
It's going to be hideous, isn't it? This one is Caramel Fudge Stout, which obviously... I'm a big fan of stout and porter.
Yeah.
Not so much when somebody puts a cake in it.
No, and don't get me wrong, I love stout. And I love porters. I'm just not entirely convinced when... I don't know what I'm drinking. It doesn't really taste of honeycomb. It's warming, but I think that's largely because of the alcohol content.
Yeah, it's like drinking... It's definitely like drinking a cake.
Yeah.
And it does give you that warming, gouty feeling.
Yeah.
It is high blood pressure job.
Yeah, it is like gout in a glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine... I'm trying to work out a time when I'd ever drink it. Apart from doing a podcast with you, I can't really see any kind of... Would you have it with a pudding? I don't know.
I have come to the conclusion that the only time I drink ridiculous beer like this is when we do this.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd do it for fun, which actually suggests that I don't podcast for fun, so that's probably the wrong way of putting it.
Yeah. I think it's part of the rigueur, isn't it, to get some... Yours hasn't even got a head on it.
No, it has poured out like... It just kind of slid out.
Yeah, slightly viscousy.
Yeah, and now it's
like meconium.
Yeah, and now it's just eyeing me. It's giving me side eye. Right. Okay. So let's try and take our minds off this glass of whatever the fuck we are drinking. So in the last couple of years, 3 good things we've read or watched in the field of the genre of pulp or sci-fi or fantasy or any of those things that we're into.
Yeah, something when it comes to books. So you'd think like during a pandemic you'd probably read loads. And my wife is a avid reader. Neither of us have hardly read anything over 2 years. It's ridiculous, really. I've been listening to audiobooks because that's the laziest thing. I can listen to a book, usually fall asleep, rewind it, listen to the same chapter about 8 times. But I've just been going through an Ian Fleming phase. So I got the audiobook of Colonel's Son because I've never read that, the Kingsley Amis Bond book, which is very strange. And then On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which I've never read either. And the audiobook was David Tennant. It was really good.
Right.
And it's actually a really good book.
Yeah, well, they don't really bear much resemblance to the films, do they?
Well, this one, to be honest, obviously I know the film pretty well. I really like the film, despite George Lazenby.
Sweet Jesus and all the baby angels.
That's what Lazenby would have said.
Yeah. Well, I love On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think it's hands down the best Bond film, and I think George Lazenby would have got better with time. I think he's a little bit wooden. It's a bit weird that he's dubbed by Jack Hawkins for part of it, which is very odd.
Is he?
Yeah, all the bit where he's being hilly, where he's got his kilt on and he's being Hillary, because he visits M, doesn't he? And M's, I really love it because he visits M and M's mounting butterflies, and it's the first time you see M outside of until Judi Dench time. Yeah. You see Bernard Lee M at his house mounting butterflies, and he goes to visit him, and then he goes to visit the Doctor whose identity he takes on.
Yes, he does.
Hillary,
that's slightly different to the book. In the book, they've got the heraldry expert, who's quite a good character as well.
Yeah, and it's not Jack Hawkins; it's George Baker, isn't it, who plays the Doctor? I think it's George Baker. So yeah, George Baker actually voiced James Bond for about a third of a film, which is quite odd. I think it was George Baker. Yeah, I fucking love it. I think he looks the part. He's absolutely ripped. He's handsome. He looks fucking great when he rescues Tracy at the beach at the beginning. Yeah. He looks absolutely terrific. I think it's beautifully directed. The music's fantastic. The Aston Martin is gorgeous.
It is pretty good.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's got one of the best soundtracks as well. And of course the end is just, to die for, isn't it? I even like Telly Savalas as Blofeld. I think he's really good, even though he is basically just playing Telly Savalas.
Well, yeah, but he didn't need to do anything else,
No, not really.
The thing is, they did it out of order, didn't they, really? They should have done, I think it was, You Only Live Twice was before On Her Majesty's Secret Service, wasn't it? It should be the other way around, because the books, so...
Right.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and then, You Only Live Twice is when he starts hunting down Blofeld.
Yeah. Right, okay.
But anyway, so I was listening to that. That was really good. Yeah. Which brings me on to probably No Time to Die, which was probably I was waiting for that for some time to watch that. Mm-hmm. I loved that. Thought it was ace. A lot of people I know well, it's not a Bond film, is it? It's like, well, it's a Bond film now. If you couldn't do a Roger Moore film now, well, I wouldn't watch it for a start. But, I just thought it was really good quality. It was very long.
Well, Bond always changes with time, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Doctor No is a completely different James Bond to Live and Let Die, is a completely different James Bond to License to Kill or The Living Daylights, which is a completely different James Bond to any of the Pierce Brosnan ones. I mean, fucking hell. You don't want Die Another Day again, do you?
I don't, no.
No, good Lord, no. No, I thought it was really good. And it didn't feel its length.
No, I actually read it. The cinema I went to was... a kind of a little independent cinema in Manchester, and they had an intermission. Which was good. So I was drinking wine throughout, and ran out.
Yeah,
went to have a piss, got a wine. Second half of the film, it worked quite nicely.
I didn't really have very high hopes for it, because although at the time I really liked Skyfall when I first saw it, on a second watch I thought it fell to bits. And Spectre, on the first watch, I thought was awful. I just thought it was really poor.
I thought it was actually better, though, when I watched it again.
Well, when I watched it again, and I didn't have to react negatively to Blofeld being his stepbrother or whatever, which was
exactly.
Fucking bollocks. Once I didn't have to react to that nonsense. Actually, it was all right. It wasn't a bad film at all.
The beginning bit's amazingly filmed. The Day of the Dead bit. It's just amazing. It's just so well filmed. Yeah, but so Die Another Day, really enjoyed that.
Die Another Day.
Die Another Day. I didn't enjoy that. No Time to Die.
It's that caramel fudge stout. Yeah, you need to knock it on the head.
Yeah, good God, I do.
Yeah.
So that was that. I went to see Suicide Squad, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was really funny. Mm-hmm. I was just laughing about the Weasel guy probably for about 10 minutes. And I thought John Cena in it was really funny.
I liked Polka Dot Man. I thought if we'd ever run superhero role-playing game, Polka Dot Man would have been one of our characters.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
And possibly the Weasel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did laugh. I went with my son Dylan, and he thought it was hilarious as well. So both got quite pure elf humour.
Yeah.
So even the first 10 minutes, I was guffawing throughout. It was just really funny.
Yeah, I liked when Nathan Fillion's arms came off and he was just completely useless. Just absolutely amazing that was actually a character in a comic. It's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Although I did see someone, I think it was Sardonicus on Twitter, posted a picture of him today from the comic. And he says, "Behold, I can detach my arms." And he pulls his arm off, and the sound effect is plop. It was rather amusing. Plop is a comic sound effect that needs to get used more often. Definitely. So I kind of enjoyed. I did enjoy No Time to Die, and I didn't mind the ending either. I thought it went.
No, I don't like the ending as well. And I watched Dune recently. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh my.
I've had toothache all day, and this is just like I might as well just like punch myself in the face drinking this. It's like,
yeah. At least we know we're getting them out of the way. Yeah. It can only go up from here.
You can only go up from here. I've seen what we've got.
Well, yeah. Let's not spoil it.
No.
So yeah, I mean, we're trying to do a review of the last two and a bit years, but all I can think of is stuff from the last 2 months as well, because my memory is absolute shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's terrible. And that's the thing, isn't it? I've tried reading a couple of kind of new books, and I've got the Joe Abercrombie, the second one of the new trilogy. The first one I liked. The second one I've not opened. Just because I can't be asked, to be honest.
Yeah.
Started reading Sailor and Seas of Fate the other day.
Yeah, we're going to cover that in the new year, aren't we?
Yeah, enjoyed that.
That's going to be our next one.
I think probably the only books I've read are the ones we've podcasted, to be honest. So
yeah. I should point out to everybody that the last time Loz was on, we did actually roll some dice and select a couple of short stories from the White Wolf collections, which we were supposed to cover.
Yeah.
But
they're a bit.
It didn't really excite me to talk about them, so we just thought we'd skip it and go straight back to Sailor and the Seas of Fate.
Yeah, which I think is historically, for me, the first Elric book I read.
Yeah, well, let's save that for when we do
exactly.
it. Yeah.
So what about you then in the Squid Games? Quite enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Kingdom film, quite enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was grim, wasn't it?
It was, wasn't it? Not many laughs there, was there?
No.
And a very unusual protagonist stroke anti-hero.
Yeah.
And a really weird ending.
Yeah, so just for everybody's benefit, there's a series on Netflix called, is it Kingdom or The Kingdom?
Kingdom. Yeah.
Kingdom. Korean period drama with zombies in it, which is absolutely fucking terrific. And there was kind of a spin-off film from it on Netflix, which is excellent, very grim.
Yeah.
Perhaps lacks a little bit of... Kingdom's not a comedy, but it does have a wry sense of humour as it goes. Well, there ain't no fucking comedy in that movie. Well, it's super grim.
The end of it reminded me a bit of 13 Assassins, but with millions of zombies.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of that. So that was good. Apart from that, I've just been watching probably non-genre stuff, really. But we probably should touch on Wheel of Time.
Yeah, I think we'll end up touching on Wheel of Time on a couple of occasions, because... So for me, last couple of years, I can't remember 90% of what I've read, because my brain is completely knackered. But the things that have really leapt up and impressed me this last year or so, Ralph Lovegrove invited me on the Fictoplasm podcast, and I read Roadside Picnic for the first time in 20 years. And because I was reading Roadside Picnic, I also watched the Tarkovsky film Stalker, which is based on Roadside Picnic.
I don't know if I've seen it or read the book, to be honest.
I strongly recommend reading Roadside Picnic and watching the film. The film is its own thing in many ways, but essentially the story is that in the book it's just kind of it's kind of almost starts. What's the expression when something starts mid-action?
In media res.
In media res. So it starts in media res, and basically it's a country where there was some kind of alien visitation, and they arrived. Nobody could figure out what was going on. They didn't communicate with anybody, and they left. And the zones where they arrived and left have weird and wonderful artifacts and things that alter the flow of existence and the nature of reality. And there are stalkers. People are called stalkers who go into the zones to try and get these things to sell them to collectors who are a whole variety of different motives. It's an absolutely fascinating book that's kind of split into parts where the effect on the stalkers and the effect on the world outside the zone kind of takes on new dimensions as time goes by. And it's a brilliant book. The film is a lot more stripped back and much more bare experience, but just absolutely fucking beautiful. It's done by Andrei Tarkovsky, who did Solaris, and I actually think it's a better film than Solaris. I do like Solaris. I like Solaris a lot, but Stalker is just one of the most beautifully shot and kind of contemplative science fiction movies I think ever. It's absolutely wonderful, and I got the Criterion Blu-ray, and that's absolutely fantastic. Tried to get Phil to watch it with me.
No,
she wasn't having it,
no.
and that's just kind of made me really made me think about the Tarkovsky novels again, because I watched a film based upon one of their books called Hard to Be a God, which came out on Blu-ray a couple of years ago. Which is, if you want a film that captures the filth of medieval Europe in the most beautifully distinct and vivid way, Hard to Be a God, you will never beat it. It's a Russian film that was made over quite a protracted period of time, had various interruptions, and everybody in that film every single extra and every single actor is so committed to this world that they're occupying. It's completely unique, unlike anything I've ever seen. And the essential story to that is that it's like a world with medieval level of technology, and there are some scientists from Earth who are there, who are essentially living as part of this medieval society as an experiment, and to actually take notes. I really need to read the books. Undoubtedly, the film will be its own thing, but I need to read the book to get more of a handle on what's going on. So I would very much recommend you get your hands on Hard to Be a God, the film, and give that a look. Probably watch it on your own. I don't think it's particularly family-friendly film. No. Phil watched about 40 minutes with me and said, I can't watch this. I just went elsewhere.
She gave me 40 minutes of it, though.
Yeah, she managed 40 minutes. It's brilliant. So that was good. It was a good experience being asked on another podcast as well, and Ralph was really, really gracious asking me to go on. I really enjoyed it. I had a really good time. I think, again, it's hard to kind of think back to things one has enjoyed in the last couple of years because my memory is so terrible. But
definitely.
I am going to give a shout out to and it's not exactly, well, it is a genre film, but just not the genre we tend to deal with on this podcast. But I became obsessed with a film called The Greasy Strangler.
I think I've seen a poster.
Yeah, I won't go into it. I'll just encourage everybody who's listening to this to watch the trailer for The Greasy Strangler, and you'll either be into it or you won't.
Which I think is that title, it's probably right, isn't it?
Yeah, it's astonishing, and again, unlike anything I've ever seen. And I got my dad the Blu-ray for Christmas because I reckon my dad will love it. But I'm going to have to warn him, don't watch it with Mum.
Whatever you do.
Yeah, it's really bombed out. And I don't know, other things that I've been looking at. Well, again, as a result of doing this podcast, the last show that came out was with a guy, Andrew Nett, a.k.a. Pulp Curry, about his book Dangerous Visions and New Worlds, radical science fiction from the 50s to the 80s. And reading through that and reading the articles, there are so many crazy pulp genre fiction things that completely passed me by. Just like Guy and Smith passed me by. I used to read The Rats, read a bit of Stephen King, mostly unfortunate experiences with Stephen King. I read The Stand all the way through. I will never fucking forgive Stephen King for the end of The Stand, so I've never really read much else by Stephen King. Yeah, I don't. Great first half, second half is a bit good versus evil, you know, bit. I don't know if you call it cliched, but the end is fucking garbage. It's like, you read 700 pages and think, hang on a minute, there's only like 3 pages left.
What could
possibly happen? And honestly,
I think I know what
God.
the ending is now. Actually, you mention it.
Yeah, it is the worst kind of Deus Ex Machina kind of ending I've ever come across. Ever.
Yeah. Do you reckon it was just that? I've written 700.
Well, it's like,
I don't know what to do.
The end of Night of the Crabs was disappointing, but at least it was only 140 fucking pages. You know?
Disappointing the Crabs won.
And shit, don't get me started on the end of Crab's Moon. We've got a whole podcast on that coming up, or you've heard it already, depending on the order these things come out. So, yeah, but the really great thing about doing that podcast was it encouraged me to look at things like, and I won't go over it all again because it's in the previous show, but all the output of publishers like New English Library. So all those crazy books like the Skinhead books and Say You Bastard and You Nice Bastard, the G.F. Newman books, but there was a whole kind of subgenre of Hell's Angels books.
Right.
And Andrew put me on to one called Angels from Hell. So I couldn't get the original NEL edition, but I got the omnibus edition of all 4 Angels from Hell books by Mick Norman. And they're set in the future where there's like a sort of a crypto-fascist English government clamping down on countercultures like hippies and bikers. So this guy, this ex-army bloke, decides to join a biker gang to try and infiltrate it and take it over from within, and then use it as an anti-authority tool to rebel and strike against the fascist government from the Welsh hills. It's
of course he would.
Yeah, it's quite out there, and because it's written in the 70s and it's super exploitative, it's bang out of order from just about the first page. It's hugely entertaining and written in like a really kind of compulsive page turner fashion. So I'm a little bit into that at the moment. And then I got
it's quite niche.
Yeah, and just as niche, I got a series of 3 books about, and how the fuck these passed me by, I'll never know either. They're published by Corgi, with those ace 70s photo or 80s photo covers, where basically they just got some bloke, put him in a Macintosh, gave him a fake pistol and put him in front of a wire fence near a factory and to strike 3 different poses, and then that was the cover of the 3 different books. And they're about the resistance to Soviet-occupied Britain.
Brilliant.
In the 1970s. I'm like, how on earth did these pass me by at the time? Because they would have been right up my street in the 80s, you know?
I'm surprised it wasn't a TV show, to be honest.
Well, what the covers reminded me of, they were like a photo cover version. Do you remember that Tracer novel by Stuart Jackson?
Yeah.
That we read in the 90s? The covers look like a photo version of that cover. And I really should. I've still got that book. I really should dig that out and give it another look, because I remember really enjoying it at the time.
Yeah,
I lent it to you,
it,
and you enjoyed it at the time. So really interesting. So just again for everybody's benefit, we read a book in the 90s, and I used it as the partial basis for a Twilight 2000 sort of game that I ran for a while, and it was set in a future fascist Britain where the AIDS epidemic had got really out of hand. So it was like an AIDS epidemic horror story almost, but the fascist government was basically locking everybody up in detention centres and death camps run by special health authorities.
That's right.
Yeah. But it was this guy uncovers this massive government conspiracy, and it was really good at the time. I'm glad to dig it out and read it again.
I enjoyed it at the time.
Yeah. So I mean, what else has there been? Well, I think you very very briefly touched on Dune. And once again, our memory of the last 2 years all gets compacted into the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, what did you make of Dune?
It looked very nice. What the thing about Dune for me was it was 2 hours, 20 odd, and did half a book. And then the David Lynch one was about 2 hours, 20 odd, and did a full book plus some comedy added bits.
Yeah, and was largely incoherent.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. But they were the bits I liked.
Yeah.
But I think all the stuff that was added in, I don't think necessarily enhanced the film much. So you kind of wasted half an hour getting to the Fremen. And that half an hour could have been used with the Fremen and moved it on a bit for me. It looked really good. The cast was all good, but I did miss certain bits.
Yeah.
because I know the Lynch version so much.
Yeah.
I almost missed the thinking aloud bit, but I didn't. Yeah, I had it in my head.
Yeah.
So I didn't need it, but it was. I enjoyed it, and I want to see the next one, so that's good. And it looked amazing, but I think some of the David Lynch sets were better, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I thought Baron Harkonnen was a bit rubbish.
Yeah.
Compared to the pus-ridden David Lynch version.
Well, yeah, weirdly, I think the best Baron Harkonnen is the TV miniseries one, played by Ian McNeice.
Yeah.
He's not got a moustache, but he's a moustache-twirling villain, which he is in the books. He's extravagant. Yeah, the Skarsgård Baron was something lacking there. I hope you get more out of him in the second movie. Yeah, I think I really enjoyed it. I thought it was visually fantastic. Took my mum and dad to see it. I think the last time I took them to cinema was to see Prometheus. And the last time I took them to cinema before that was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein by Kenneth Branagh. So I've not took them to cinema that often in the last 20 years. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was interesting to get my mum's take on it because, she's seen the Dune movie. I think she read Dune like 30 or 40 years ago because my mum read quite a lot of fantasy in the 70s because she liked The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, so she tried other bits and pieces as well. And I had to agree with her a little bit, really. So, the David Lynch film, design-wise, is fucking spectacular. It's absolutely beautiful. The miniature model work, the matte paintings by
the pugs.
all absolutely superb, astonishing. Okay, some of the special effects look a little bit funky. But I really like the giant vagina mouth guild navigator. I think it looks fantastic.
I do, That was the bit I missed almost.
It's just so
really
super
cool
weird
as well. Yeah, it's like a massive weird fish man in a tank.
And I like the dudes who kind of wander around after his tank, half-assedly hoovering up the goo, but missing most of it, and going.
Yeah, and I love the fact that the translator for them is out of sync. It's amazing. Like it takes a while for the translator machine to work.
Yeah, all the technology is great. Everything looks good. But interestingly, I found a torrent of it. There is a version of Dune. There's a few fan edit versions of Dune, and there's one where basically every single scrap of anything Dune related from any of the different versions, the TV version, deleted scenes, is all piled in together, which is okay to a degree. But there's one called the Spice Diver edit, where a guy has taken everything that's available and tried to make something coherent.
Right.
And it's got tons of scenes in it. It's got the scene, for example, not just when Gurney's playing his ballast set. Lots more scenes with the Fremen. Lots more scenes with the Fremen Reverend Mother. More scenes with just about every character that flesh it out. Some of the visual quality is a bit patchy on some of them because they're not restored. But it extends the length to about 3 hours 20 minutes or 3 hours 15 minutes or something like that. And it's absolutely incredible how much more coherent the David Lynch version becomes with all those additions. Yeah, it's really, really good. But I think, going back to the Villeneuve one, I think it looks terrific, but there's just something a little bit bland about some of the design.
I just thought the bit for me was, if you think about the main kind of beats of that film, you've got obviously the takeover, the Sadakar coming in, basically the Duke getting taken out, which is that's the main point, isn't it? And then he goes off to the desert. So that's the kind of where you hit the top of the arc. And it was done really slowly and not very exciting. And the Duke just basically goes for a bit of a wander, doesn't he? And goes, "Oh, terrible. I've been trapped by Huey." It was just, I just thought it was a bit,
That's pretty much how it happens in the book.
It is, but he didn't then go, the tooth, which I did miss.
Yeah, I want to see Dean Stockwell's weird front teeth and his wet lips.
Yeah, and I missed the Mentat setting my mind in motion by the whatever of Sabu. I don't even know. Is that in the book? I can't remember.
No, I don't think it is.
And that was brilliant.
Yeah, Brad Dourif in his little cable car. Yeah,
drinking his weird. The lips acquire stain.
Yeah, it's by the juice of Sabu. The lips acquire stains. The thoughts acquire speed. No, the thought's quite speed, the lip's quite stains, the stains become a ward, and it is by will alone I set my mind in motion.
Yeah, amazing. Who wrote that?
David Lynch.
Yeah, exactly. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And it was little bits like that, which, because I've read the book a few times, but I've not read it for ages. And it was like, was that David Lynch, or was that actually in the book?
Yeah. No, it's David Lynch, and the Baron being covered in pustules and all that business. Actually, there is a reason why he's kind of extrapolated the Baron of the books, because the Baron in the books, used to be like a fucking super gorgeous hunk of a guy, but he got poisoned and just kind of became this absolute mess and has to be kept alive by his doctors.
Yeah.
So David Lynch just took that to the nth degree and made
had
it covered in pustules and taking showers in black goo.
and having heart plugs for his servants.
Yeah, and milking cats and all that wild stuff. So
all the classics.
I think the Denis Villeneuve one, whilst I really like it for what it is, I think it just lacks a little, not literally, but it lacks a bit of colour. It lacks a bit of vibrancy, and there are things in the TV miniseries version which obviously the special effects are achieved, even though at the time it won awards, for a TV series. But some of the effects now look pretty clunky. Some of the CGI is really bad. But actually, the Baron's fucking great, and it has certain key scenes in it which make, for example, Arrakis feel really, really alive. One of the biggest beefs for me about the film is they arrive at Arrakeen, and it doesn't feel like a city at all.
No.
It doesn't feel like a city. It doesn't feel like a population centre. It's got no life to it. And
even the shots are like that, aren't they?
That's right.
Blade Runner.
It might as well be the surface of the Death Star.
Yeah,
the shots over Arrakeen, just a sandy version of the Death Star. There's no life to it at all.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, some like the designs of the hardware and all that business, the carrioles, the spice harvesters, all that looks fucking superb, and the ornithopters are just brilliant. Really, really wonderful.
Yeah.
But it just lacks a little bit of life. And there's a scene in the book which is, it's not in the Lynch version, even in any of the deleted scenes, and it's not in the Villeneuve version, but it's in the TV miniseries. And that's the dinner party scene at the palace at Arrakeen after they've taken over, where in the book you get a real sense of all the political machinations and movers and shakers, the smugglers, the water traders, and you get a sense of what the dark economy is on Arrakis and where all the corruption is. And you get them in the miniseries. It's not like a literal translation of the scene in the book. It's more about how Paul and Irialan meet and find out each other's positions. But it's still there, and it makes Arrakeen feel alive. I think it's a real shame that they missed that opportunity in the film. But
and the Emperor as well. That's the thing with the Lynch one. At least you get to understand why.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is basically the Emperor is basically Basil exposition in the David Lynch version, which it's interesting that you see the Emperor, but the scene with him and the Navigator, even though it absolutely looks brilliant in terms as a scene, it's just exposition. It's just the Emperor basically explaining the entire plot.
Yeah, but in this one there wasn't one, was there? It's all of a sudden going, I need some Sardaukar warriors. Yeah, we'll go to that planet, which looked pretty cool. Yeah,
I didn't mind that. I thought all the Seleucus Secundus stuff with the guys who haven't made the cut being sacrificed upside down so they can daub the Sardaukar with their blood, and the weird Mongolian throat singing and all that. I thought that was all really, really cool. I really like all that. And I like the fact that the Villeneuve film just allows it all to, it's not like they're hiding anything. There's a sense of foreboding right from the very start about what's going on, and then when it all just kicks off, it's fine. But much as I'm fond of the Lynch version, that Emperor Navigator scene is basically an idiot's guide to what's going on.
I think it needed it, though, to be honest.
Fuck yeah, because without that scene, you wouldn't have a Scooby-Doo what was going on in that movie.
No, I remember watching it as a kid going, this is quite horrific. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Read the book, and I watched it with my mum and dad when it was on telly or something. And I had to explain what was going on throughout the entire film. So my mum was like, who's he? Why is he doing that?
Yeah.
Who are the Landsrad? Who's this? Who are Chome?
Yeah.
Because when you read the book, it's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah.
Well, fortunately, you've got appendices, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
I challenge you to actually say what CHARM stands for.
It's not going to happen.
No.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to try.
No, I think that's probably wise.
I've nearly finished this beer, though.
Oh, right. Oh, sure, you fucker. Are you making me down this?
I'm going to rinse this one.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Before you go, let's roll a dice, and while you're over there, you can get the next beer out. So it's your turn to roll.
May the dice be with me. 11.
11. Roll again. We've had that one.
18. Oh, 18.
Well, yeah, we've had that one. Roll again.
6.
6. Okay, so 6 is... It's not a fumble, but it is a Camden Marmite Ale.
Holy crap. At least it's not going to be sweet.
Yeah. Fuck this beer. Oh, God, there's weird sediment in the bottom.
Enjoy the magic.
Gods above. Dear listeners, I do not recommend Heaven Bourbon BA Honeycomb Chocolate Stout by Northern Monk. I mean, God bless you, Northern Monk. I've had some good beers, but that really is an acquired taste. In your own time, Bearfield.
How's it smelling?
Smells like dog food.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? which is quite an inspiring smell, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, this podcast is me and you drinking shit beer.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, if I'd never actually struck on the Moorcock angle, that probably would have been all the podcast was. So at least we managed to combine, kill two birds with one stone.
Right. Honestly, that fudge caramel stout.
Yeah. I think I might actually have a serious beef with Northern Monk over that. And God, it's gone to my head.
Yeah, this one has
gone right to my head. But anyway, I've been sitting on these Camden Marmite Ales for quite some time now, waiting for this opportunity. And I've had them in the kitchen, and I have not touched them because I've been waiting to share one with you. So, let's go. Marmite Ale.
Cheers.
How can it possibly fail? Yeah, well,
in many ways.
Well, I think we could probably answer that question. It can fail.
Spectacularly.
I'm not entirely sure what I'm drinking here.
A cross between a drink and...
So basically, if you take a dark or brown ale, remove all beer flavour and replace it with... Well, it doesn't taste of Marmite.
No, which is probably a bonus, but it does...
Well, I like Marmite, so I'm quite disappointed.
Yeah, I like Marmite, but not in a drink.
This tastes like if you tried to make brown ale taste of coal dust.
Because many people have tried and failed.
Yeah, take that, Jilly Goulden. Yeah. I'm getting notes of dog food and coal dust. Yeah, but not beer. That said, after that last fucking travesty, it's actually like quite easy to drink. It's actually quite refreshing. Yeah. Anyway, so, agenda item 3, Mr. Bearfield. We've spent the last couple of years, give or take, going through a pandemic.
Yeah.
The world is a bit annoying.
Very much not our oyster.
Yeah.
The opposite of that.
Yeah, well, it's not our oyster, but at least we're not drinking oyster stout. So
well,
things could be worse. Yeah. I mean, when it comes... If we're looking at the pantheon of shit beers, I think that oyster stout that we got from the beer off in Hull is probably the pinnacle.
Yeah.
One of those that just went down the sink. But anyway, we digress. Although we don't, in a way, because this next bit, the world is kind of turned to shit.
Yeah.
We haven't got time for everything. There's lots of stuff in the world. There's lots of things to digest. We've got to prioritise what we can keep when we move into our crappy antibacterial null space when the inevitable,
when do I sign up for that, baby?
17th variant comes out and none of the vaccines work. So what genre fiction or related cack just has to go? So this is our half-assed take on Room 101. Now, of course, we've got an easy first entry. It's Oyster Stout. Oyster Stout can go in Room 101 and fuck right off.
It can. It's not really genre, but we'll go with it.
It's not. But what have you got? What are you sending to Room 101?
So I will stick with fantasy fiction and stuff I really hate about fantasy fiction. Yeah. So I can't put Terry Brooks in there because that would be unfair to him. He's probably a nice man.
Yeah, bless him. He probably doesn't deserve that.
Well, we say that. We don't know him. He could be a fascist.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I'm hoping he's not. So no offence to Terry.
Yeah.
So my thing about fantasy fiction, I've read a lot of it, is the Dark Lord, right? So when it comes to books, anything that's got the Dark Lord or the evil one or whatever can fuck right off into the null space, because it's rubbish, isn't it? It's just a shit villain.
Yeah.
It's either an evil god who's a bit shit. You've got Sauron was the precursor to the Dark Lord, wasn't he? But at least he had Saruman and kind of some low-level shit kickers to kind of balance it out. But he was still rubbish. But he had a backstory, so I'll let him off. But, back to Terry Brooks, the Shannara Chronicles had a Dark Lord. Even the Thomas Covenant books, Lord Fowl. Yeah. Just anything like that. Even, the majority of fantasy films, you've got a Dungeons and Dragons film where you've got this, they've always got the Dark Lord. Voldemort, the Dark Lord. They're all shit, aren't they? Yeah, they're just the motivations are rubbish, aren't they? Really. So we've tried writing several things. You try and think of a villain, and what most of it's like, right? Yeah, I'll just conquer the world. I'll take over the world because I'm really evil. But what's the plan? What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
You're not going to sit back and drink claret if you're evil.
There's ways of doing it, and for all that a couple of the books have their faults, Moorcock did a kind of a good job with that with the Hawkmoon books. Emperor Juan, actually, there is a political purpose, and they have as vile as it is, they have a political motives. Obviously, they're evil cunts, and they're all really vile, but there's a sense of it's grounded in some level of realism. I'm going to give Tolkien a pass because
I'll let Sauron off.
Yeah, all the Sauron stuff and all the background lore with Melkor and all that stuff is actually quite interesting. It took me about 47 attempts to actually read the Silmarillion, but one day I read it. One day I read it and it just really clicked. I remember trying to read it after Lord of the Rings, and then I tried a few years later, and I tried a few years later after that, and I was just like, there was such a bombardment of lore. It was just so... And it's
really dryly written as well, isn't it?
And it's not a big book. It's not thick. It's not particularly dense. There's just too much information. There's too much overload. And frankly, I don't give a flying fuck how many apricots Glorfindel ate before he had a battle.
I think it was about 12, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Usually 12.
And Glorfindel ate 14 apricots.
And got a tummy ache.
Yeah, before the walls of Gondolin. Blah, blah, blah.
And he was bilious throughout the battle. Which is unfortunate, wasn't it?
But one day I picked it up and read it, and I just rattled through that stuff, and it all just went in, and it clicked, and it's really fucking good. And all the Beren and Luthien stuff is great, and all
that's amazing.
Yeah, all the Turin Turambar stuff is great.
Yeah, both of those are brilliant.
Yeah, and the background stuff about sort of the lore of Middle Earth is all quite interesting. It's good. But then when you get stuff like the Shannara Chronicles, and actually, I didn't mention things we've read or watched. I didn't mention Wheel of Time, because this is the point at which we put the boot in. Not Agenda Item 2, Agenda Item 3 is where we put the boot in. Two things that people have recommended to me over and over and over and over again over the years: Wheel of Time and David Gemmell.
I was going to say bare knuckle boxing.
Bare knuckle boxing, yeah. Which, frankly, I also avoided like the plague because I'm a massive wimp.
Same here.
Yeah. I tried reading Wheel of Time for maybe the second or third time. I tried reading the first Wheel of Time book.
How far did he get?
About 3 chapters. I was like, oh, fuck all this. And to be fair, I got 3 episodes into the TV series before I thought, oh, fuck all this. And you're right, it's absolutely amazing. Dark Lord, Dark Army, and it's just like a massive fucking retread of all the plot points of Lord of the Rings, even including escaping over the Brandywine on a ferry.
chased by Trollocs.
Yeah, and I'm watching it, I'm thinking, what is going on here? And there are things about the TV series I actually quite liked. I thought the Trollocs were really good. I thought they were a really good blend of CGI.
They're called Trollocs.
Yeah, it's a fucking stupid name. But visually, I think it looks nice. I think they're a really good blend of CGI and practical effects. I think it looks pretty fantastic. But when I look at the main cast, I'd love to kind of embrace those actors, and I think they're doing the best they can do with what they've got. But they all look like they've been dressed from a Gap medieval store.
Maybe they have.
I really struggled with it, and I like Rosamund Pike, but she's just there to be an exposition machine.
I like her as well. I think she's a good actress.
And again, it's like Dark Lord, his minions, they're after us. We are the chosen ones.
That's
really?
probably the other one, really, the chosen one piece. But
yeah.
So there's that. I think shit villains. It probably could be just come under that kind of caveat of shit villains, that category. Even Dark Lords are probably the main one, but ultimately, if you've got a shit villain,
you mentioned Thomas Covenant novels as well, and I think they're another good example. Lord Fowl. Okay, I think over time you do kind of get some kind of motivation for Lord Fowl. But, I suppose at least in Wheel of Time and Sword of Shannara's Favour, your protagonist doesn't rape somebody in the first 3 chapters. So I think if we're talking
tick in the box, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if we're talking Room 101, Thomas Covenant novels can go in Room 101 for me. They can get the fuck off the island.
For me, I've read this. What's the author called?
Stephen. Fuck, I can't remember.
Donaldson. Yeah, so I read a couple of his other ones. I can't for the life of remember anything about them apart from one of the wizard was called Aileron or something, which is a part of a plane.
Yeah.
And it was mostly awful.
Well, it's shit. I'd have called my wizard Rudder.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a much better name. I think that's absolutely fair. I think the Dark Lord trope get in the bin.
Yeah, I'm not even a massive fan of the Night King either, to be honest.
Yeah, well, the thing about the George Martin book, there is no Night King. They created the Night King for the TV series, I think.
Did they?
Yeah, you've got the
White Walkers.
You got the White Walkers, but I mean, the TV series is a perfect example of how the Dark Lord with no apparent motive goes horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Because they set up all this fucking nonsense, and they really don't know what to do with it. And even in the 8th series, that's something that can go in the bin. Game of Thrones TV series. Yeah.
But it was great up to a point, though, wasn't it?
It was good up to a point. I think it had its issues. I think Benioff and Weiss had a really, really bad habit of putting things in there that weren't in the books, that were just a little bit nasty, and the books weren't pleasant.
No.
But, they made the TV series a lot more rapey, a lot more male-gazy. I was talking to Gemma, a.k.a. Mortmain, the other day about this, and the stuff that they did, like, they started that series with 2 of their actors as children, and then the moment they became of age, they have one of them raped, and the other one in the 8th season, despite the fact that they've known this actress since she was a child, they ever do a nude sex scene. And it was really fucking queasy and unnecessary. There's nothing wrong with Arya getting to have a sexual relationship before the end of the world, but the way in which they did it was really fucking creepy. Turning the scene where Cersei and Jaime Lannister have sex on the tomb of their son, turning that into a rape that becomes consensual. Having the Red Wedding include a pregnant woman getting stabbed multiple times in the belly. For fuck's sake. All the signs were there early on that the guys who were running that programme were mildly problematic or majorly problematic, and as it went by, it just there's a brilliant meme of Game of Thrones series. I think it's before season 8, it's like seasons 1 to 7 or something, and it's a picture of a horse that's split, and the first 4 columns are this beautifully illustrated horse in shaded pencils, and then it gets to 5, 6, 7, and it just looks like a donkey drawn by a 3-year-old.
That's the problem when people are writing fantasy films that generally don't get it. Because if you think about the amount of fantasy films that have happened over the years, there's very few that you go, that's pretty cool. The Lord of the Rings films are certain bits I don't like, but they're really well filmed. Peter Jackson got it because he didn't dumb it down. I think that I don't know. I think
lost that reputation with the Hobbit films, though, didn't he?
Yes, he did. So I mean, we've got the House of the Dragon to come over the horizon, haven't we? The Game of Thrones show. Might watch it.
Yeah. Be interested to see what happens. Matt Smith's in it, isn't he? Quite like Matt Smith.
Yeah, I like Matt Smith a lot. Yeah. Which brings us to Chibnall's Doctor Who extravaganza.
Oh, good lord! If I had a trapdoor to hell, Chibnall's Doctor Who would be teetering on the edge of it.
Yeah. I feel really sorry for Jodie Whittaker. She's just. I mean that I've just finished watching Flux, episode 6. Yeah, what was that all about?
Yeah, when it comes to the grand hall of fame, when it comes to sticking a landing, Flux is somewhere in the cellar. A
lot of people liked it, didn't they? But
yeah, and that's that's great. I think a lot of people liked it. A lot of people really love Jodie Whittaker's take on the Doctor. I mean, I like Jodie Whittaker as an actor. I don't like her take on the Doctor, but that's probably me being nearly 50. And modern Doctor Who, I've just got to accept, isn't for me.
Yeah.
It's not my Doctor Who. At the end of the day.
It could be good, but it was mostly awful. I liked the Weeping Angels one up until the end. That was quite good.
Yeah, but it's definitely not just this. The most recent thing with Jodie Whittaker. I think I liked Capaldi as the Doctor to an extent, but I think he was poorly served by the right. I think the stories were mostly awful, and I think the Jodie Whittaker age of the Doctor is just as bad. And all this nonsense about the Doctor being some super being from outside the universe and them introducing a multiverse just seems like, right, multiverse is happening in everything, including Marvel. So what's Chibnall doing? Well, let's throw a multiverse in there as well. All seems really lazy and uninspired.
Yeah. Multiverses.
There's only one multiverse. God damn it, that's Moorcock's multiverse.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. So Dark Lords, they can bugger off.
Dark Lords can bugger off.
Game of Thrones can bugger off.
Game of Thrones can bugger off. Doctor Who. I don't want Doctor Who to bugger off, but I'm happy Chibnall is
going.
On. Yeah.
Which is good.
So my suggestions for Room 101. Well, Brewdog. No, just kidding. Although, mostly Brewdog. I think one thing from the last year or two that I've got to throw in the bin, other than Wheel of Time and Dark Lord tropes, is modern adaptations that think that they know better than the original author. And I have one key thing in mind here, and I'm talking the BBC War of the Worlds adaptation, which is, I've got to say, a period authentic War of the Worlds adaptation is something I've been waiting for ever since I read it when I was 15.
Yeah.
And actually, I didn't get War of the Worlds off Pops. I read War of the Worlds when I was staying over at my friend Emma's house when I was a teenager, and I stayed in their spare room, and her mum had a copy of War of the Worlds, and I laid in bed all morning and I read it from cover to cover, and I was familiar with the Jeff Wayne War of the Worlds album, which, as it turns out from reading the book, is a really fucking faithful adaptation.
Yeah.
And you can't go wrong with Richard Burton's voice, can you?
The Burton.
Yeah, so there have been a number of War of the Worlds adaptations. I saw the George Powell film when I was a kid, the 1950s kind of atomic age War of the World adaptation, which I'm quite fond of.
I think that's probably the one I know the best of.
Yeah. And then, of course, you get the announcement that there's a Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
And that kind of piques a little bit of interest, and then you watch it and it's like, good tripods, otherwise an absolute fucking dog's dinner.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
Yeah. And then you hear that the BBC are doing an adaptation of War of the Worlds that's period authentic, almost. Actually, I don't know why, but they moved it on a few years.
Did they?
Yeah, I don't know why. I have no idea, because it didn't really seem to have much impact on what they were doing. And I was so excited. And when some of the stills came out of the sets, and you had really incredible looking sets and production design and some really grim stuff with a street with like dead soldiers and dead horses, like scenes of absolute carnage, and it looked really, really promising. And then it got delayed, and then it got delayed again, and it's like, right, okay, what's going on? Why is this getting delayed repeatedly? And then when it came out, oh my god, holy shit, what a fucking mess.
I think I watched the first one.
you did the right thing, because it did not improve. And it was the same to a degree as my feelings when I watched the Hobbit adaptations, where it was like Peter Jackson thinking, well, some of these scenes in the books are all right, but let's minimise those and just put in all this bullshit instead. Yeah. And that's what the BBC adaptation's like. There are key iconic scenes from the books that are just missing, so they can just replace them with absolute dog shit. The design of the Martians was all wrong. The Martians, when they actually were in the war machines, was all wrong. They introduced a plot thread where it was so they effectively gender flip the narrator, which is absolutely fine. I've got no problem whatsoever with the actor who played the main protagonist. So the actual narrator in the book is kind of played by Rafe Spall, but his role is minimised in favour of his living lover, who's not his actual wife. Which whatever, right, whatever. That's all fine.
Back to me now.
And I like the actor who plays his part. I think she's a really good actor. But they have this strange plot thread where they keep flashing forward to the future.
That's right, yeah. And
it's like they just thought, you know what? We don't need any of these iconic scenes from the H.G. Wells story. Let's have a story where in the future there's a rape threat scene. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Okay, make efforts to make it contemporary if you want. But you get these BBC script writers who think, you know what, oh great, I've got the gig of a lifetime, which is adapting War of the Worlds. I'm going to throw out 90% of what H.G. Wells did. I'm going to throw out 90% of his iconic scenes. And I'm just going to make a load of shit up that's rubbish.
Yeah.
So, BBC War of the Worlds, but more broadly, modern adaptations of classic genre fiction probably need to go in the bin.
It's very hit and miss, isn't it? For all your kind of Sherlocks which hit the mark. I mean, Dracula.
But even Sherlock only hit the mark 30% of the time. 2/3 of those episodes were terrible.
Yeah, but I still think the other ones were good. Dracula started off really well, I thought. I really liked The Nun. And then it just went utterly Pete Tong. The other two episodes just like...
I liked the episode on the ship, but the cliffhanger with the helicopter, I nearly threw something at my telly.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you're like... Because really, The Nun was amazing. It was like, yeah, she's brilliant.
Yeah.
Just give her a show and I'll watch that. But yeah, there's a lot of... That's what worries me about any Moorcock adaptations.
Well, I tell you what, if the BBC did end up doing an adaptation of the History of the Rune Staff, and it went as badly as War of the Worlds or Dracula, I'd rather it just didn't happen.
I'd rather it didn't happen, to be honest. I really am. I just think it would be really terrible.
Yeah. No, I think we're in agreement there. And you know what? I've nearly finished my Marmite beer. So it's time. It's Vader time. It's not Vader time. It's next beer time. Because we've only got 2 left, I think it's pointless rolling a D20. I think we'll just say 1 to 10 is a fumble. 11 to 20 is wild card number 1.
Oh, God.
Who's going to roll?
I'll let you do it.
I'll roll. It's 19. It's wild card number 2, which leaves the fumble beer for dead last. So
you've got that one, haven't you?
I've got this one. So this has been a long time coming. And this one is Tiny Rebel Imperial Honey Glazed Ham Marshmallow Porter at 9%. And patron Randall bought me this months ago. But I've been sitting on this, waiting for you and I to do another podcast. This has been waiting a long, long time. So Randall, this one is for you. Finally. Loz, what is your wild card?
I'm going to have a look, because I've got 2. I'm deciding which one. With due sense of dread, I have gone for the Vacation Special Edition Honeycomb Chocolate Stout, which clocks in at a cosy 7%.
Okay.
Described as like your favourite chocolate bar with a boozy twist. Now, I like crunchies a lot. I don't like drinking crunchies or dipping them in beer, but I will give it a go after finishing this Marmite. Yeah. I do feel a bit gouty after the last 3, though. A bit warm.
Yeah. I've got to say, though, I think I really enjoyed the cucumber sour. I thought that was delicious and
that'd be
refreshing.
Quite nice now, wouldn't it?
It would. Sadly, had we actually sensibly organised this instead of rolling randomly on the wandering beer table, that's exactly what we could have been drinking right now. But we didn't. I've got no particular write-up on this other than it's 9%, and I'm just going to have to work with my nose, and weirdly, it
got
smells...
a bacon tinge?
Yeah, it smells of smoky bacon crisps.
Amazing. Maybe you should have some smoky bacon crisps to go with it.
I wish I had some. I ain't got any. So it smells of smoky bacon crisps with an undertone of
marshmallows.
Paint.
Excellent.
Yeah. So it smells like smoky bacon paint.
Have you had the Stay Puft normal one?
Yes, and I really like it.
Which is really nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I really like it. So I think I have often used the expression in the past, bacon improves everything.
Yeah.
I may be about to find out that that's not actually the case. But I don't know, let's go. Let's find out. Yep, that's really fucking weird. Yep. Yep, but, in its defence, it's not the worst beer of the evening.
Yeah, I think, oh man, that smells exactly like a crunchy.
Yeah.
It really does.
We have an Irish liqueur, the name of which escapes me, so it's probably pointless bringing it up. But that does taste of liquid crunchy.
Actually, it's quite nice, though.
Really?
Yeah,
oh, good. Well, you got one up on me, because I'm not convinced by this at all.
Have you ever tried the bacon soda drink?
No.
I haven't. My mate's tried it. He said it's probably as it sounds, like fizzy bacon. So not for everyone. That does taste of crunchy, actually. It's quite pleasant.
Well, fucking wish mine did. That's all I can say. Thanks, Randall. I really appreciate the thought. And to be fair, it's not your fault. You said you'd buy me a beer and shove me the Reddies. It's my fault for buying this fucking atrocity. So I will say I'm not holding it against you at all. But cheers, Randall. Much appreciated.
Nice one, Randall.
To Randall.
Yeah. Hooray.
Yeah. So I thought agenda item 4, of course, we recorded earlier in the year, and we actually did 3 in the end podcasts about role-playing games.
We did, yeah.
We never did finish that Stormbringer game for one reason or another. And what we decided to do is actually park the finale for when we could all meet up face-to-face, which we were hoping would be in the new year. Who knows which year that will be, where shit's going with the Omegatronozoidaloid virus.
Yeah, what comes after Omicron is where's that name come from?
I don't know. I think they actually skipped a Greek letter just so they could go with a more ominous-sounding one, didn't they?
It does sound a bit like a Dark Lord, doesn't it?
It does.
Dark Lord Omicron.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Or it sounds like that Transformer villain voiced by Orson Welles, but I can't remember. Yeah, that's called Omnicron or something like that.
Or a strange drug from like a 1970s post-apocalyptic futuristic society.
Yeah.
Take your Omicron, it'll make everything great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so see,
Soylent Green.
We can't really talk about that Stormbringer game anymore because we never finished it. And one day we will finish it.
We will if we can remember any of it.
If we can remember any of it. But what I thought was, because gaming online is a completely different kettle of fish, and what I'd done was a game that I thought would last 2 sessions and ended up lasting 6 and never even got finished. I thought, when it actually comes to the climax, we'll get you, obviously. We'll see if we can get Neil Burton. We'll get Norman. Cheers, Norman. Hope you're feeling better after your treatment.
Cheers, Norman.
Yep, we'll get Graham and we'll get Paul. And hopefully we'll all get together in a place, an actual physical place. And I'll add a couple of extra rooms, and we can maybe make it last about 7 hours or something. So that's something to look forward to. And when we do it, maybe we could all get drunk and record our observations, and that will be our RPG episode part 4. But I've seen, since then we have both been gaming a little bit online. Yeah. What's been your favourite game of the online gaming era? Because of course it was kind of a new thing to us, wasn't it? Gaming.
It was, yeah. It was really weird. It was one of those things where, because we obviously live in different towns, when we played even face to face, it was like once every 2-3 months, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we generally got massively bugger shit-faced.
Yeah. And
everything just ground to a halt.
Yeah, because we always forgot what we talked about 3 months ago, which is fair enough.
But don't get me wrong, we had a great time.
Yeah, it was good fun. But for me, there's like 2 things. So I've been doing my kind of regular thing weekly.
Yeah.
But I think probably one of the favourite playing was with Tanya.
Tanya Flocker, yeah.
Yeah, which was ace. It was really, really cool. Really good fun, that.
What was the system? Houses of the Blooded?
Yes, that was it, yeah.
Narrative focused, really interesting way of gaming. Yeah, that was excellent.
Yeah, it was brilliant. So that was really good fun, and yeah, it was kind of a semi-serious game, which was good.
Yeah,
and it was, for me, it was kind of interesting playing with people who play a lot.
Yeah,
which I don't do very often, and we haven't done very often, have we? Apart from me and you, when we play together, there's not many people who've played it for years, have we?
Yeah.
So that was quite good. Everybody's really invested in kind of the narrative. It was cool.
Yeah.
So it was good. And then I've been running Night's Black Agents for about a year and a half. We've got a dual GM thing, so we kind of arrange a kind of a vague plot with some vague conspiracy things, and we kind of run games in parallel with some different teams of characters, but joined it. So doing that for kind of a year and a half, which was good fun. And then I've done a couple of 70s Night Black Agents games because we got bored of computers. So I thought it'd be funnier. So I did it in the style of everybody plays a pissed up actor playing a character in a film. So we had Richard Burton, etc., etc. Oliver Reed's one of the characters is currently playing. But yeah, so Night's Black Agent's been good fun. So that's kind of what we've been doing. We've done it in the style of a TV show. So stupid stunts, that kind of stuff.
For my part, I think I've been playing Thursday nights, and of course, eternally grateful to Andy, aka Kihar, formerly of Dissecting World. I think it's probably 2020 now. He asked me if I wanted to join their Thursday night Black Hat game. So I've played just about every Thursday, with a few exceptions, and we've played a number of things. We played Black Hack, we played Mark Borg.
It was good fun.
Yeah, it was a good laugh. We've played, the system, I suppose, is immaterial. It was GURPS, which is not really to my tastes, but the actual game was very much to my tastes. So I've had a lot of fun playing a lot of different characters. So I think the first character I played in Andrew's game was Krang the Iron Bear, a 19-year-old muscle-bound idiot barbarian from the north who ends up running a cereal cafe.
Obviously.
In a hipster area, and wears a cowboy hat. That was a lot of fun. Mark Borg, I played a heretical priest who lost an arm and an eye, who was basically shit Coram. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
Shit Coram.
Yeah. And he did a post-apocalyptic game set on Tenerife, which was really good fun. And I played an ageing stand-up from the north of England called Roy Savoy.
I think I saw a picture of him.
Oh, I had such a good laugh playing Roy Savoy. It was excellent. Every week I would prepare terrible jokes. And he had us actually writing kind of accounts of what went on. So I wrote a couple of entries in Roy Savoy's diary, which was a lot of fun. I'll actually post a link to them because that was a lot of fun, and all the other players all did accounts as well. And one of the players, Dave, he actually did his account in song, which was absolutely brilliant. And most recently we played a space game where my character was an alien slug man called Les Cargo.
Obviously,
who was in charge of the ship's manifest. He was the ship's counsellor, struck quartermaster, and he exuded psychotropic goo. Yeah. So yeah.
Did you make that one up?
Yes, I did.
I just thought you might have done.
Yeah. So I'd had a lot of fun on those Thursday nights. And I've got to say that I think they're, with the state of play in the world in the last couple of years. I mean, obviously, you take succour from your family and your close ones and everything else. Yeah. But two things have been really, really good for my mental health in the last couple of years. One is doing this podcast and getting, the feedback from the people who listen to it, even to the point where some of the slightly shirty negative reviews have given me a good chuckle as well. I think my favourite of which was a comment on the Rats episode on YouTube where somebody said, the woman's all right, but the bloke is a real tool.
Didn't we get called some kind of hipster something or others as well?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, our take on Stormbringer.
That was it.
Upset somebody quite considerably, and we got called hipster douchebags or something. Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember. But yeah, that was quite good fun.
I think the other thing, about just back to gaming, is we both played the same character in Dirk's Hawkmoon game.
We did.
We?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We both played the Banneret of Tanalorn.
Yeah, with radically different interpretations, I believe.
Yeah. I think mine was a poet.
Yeah.
So I think I banged out some shit poems. What was your take on the character?
I think I had a hat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went for the more heroic hat-wearing, uppity, arrogant room staff kind of guy. Really. Yeah. My usual kind of spiel.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. And funnily enough, Derek actually owes me a Quorum game.
Does he?
Yeah.
Maybe he owes us both a Quorum game.
I think he does, yeah. Because Derek was supposed to be running a Quorum game at, I don't think it was Virtual Grogme. I can't remember which one it was, but he had to pull it at the last minute because of pull-outs. So Derek, if you're listening, you owe Loz and I a Quorum game, because Loz is an avatar of mine and I am an avatar of his. So
yeah, exactly. So what can possibly go wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. What goes for him goes for me, and vice versa. So yeah, it's been very cool past time, and again, it's funny, the parallels between podcasting and gaming is it leads you to meet and interact with, especially during lockdown, which has been such a unique period of time in our lives. You know, I'm 49, you're 50 now, I think.
51, man.
51, blimey. And it's very much a unique occurrence in our lifetimes. But the positive part of it is that I never would have met or interacted with a lot of these people. I never would have met or interacted with the people I game with on a Thursday night. You know, and
yeah, totally. Yeah.
And they're all really fucking cool people, and I have a great laugh with them.
Yeah,
you know, it's very cool. It's very cool. So, with every cloud, etc. So
yeah, same with us. We've got 5 players who play every Tuesday, which is great. You know, 3 of them have not role played since, well, one's role played once in his life, but they always keep turning up, which is good.
Yeah.
And the online thing works, doesn't it, sometimes?
Yeah, it does.
It's taken me a while to kind of get my head around, because when I first started doing it, I had loads of maps and loads of stuff on Roll20, and it ended up being a bit of a board game at one point. You know, when you just got miniatures moving around, and it was like, nah, this is not right. So I just started paring back and not using them anymore, because that was the thing. It does very much. Certain games you're like, right, I'll just move there, and it kind of takes away from using your imagination a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've always been theatre of the mind players anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah. I wouldn't use the word theatre. Maybe stand-up comedy of the mind, maybe, or shouting at pigeons of the mind or something.
So there's new news afoot that there's potentially a new Elric role-playing game in the works.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's doing that?
I can't remember, but Moorcock in an interview said that he's been working with or negotiating with a company. I think there might be a French company or something that are doing so. Because of course Moorcock's been interviewed a lot recently. His sequel to the Whispering Swarm is due.
Yeah, we should probably have a brief chat about the new Moorcock things on the horizon.
Yeah, so there's a sequel to the Whispering Swarm, and to my shame, I still haven't read the first one.
Still finished it.
Yeah, got it on the shelf. There's the new Elric book, which he said is really pulpy, but he likes it. And that is music to my ears, because if I get a new Elric book, I don't want a repeat of... I know we ain't covered it on the podcast, but I don't want a repeat of the last trilogy, which I thought vanished up its own arse a little bit. I just want some really fucking good pulpy Elric action, if there's going to be more Elric.
Yeah, it was very much the last 3 were falling in love too much with your character, I think. It's like, Elric, you're a bit of a back, you know.
I thought there were an attempt to try and do something slightly different to wrap up the Eternal Champion overall arc.
And make Elric more important than he is.
Yeah,
that was the thing that annoyed me.
Yeah, to try and undo the quest for Tanalorn.
Yeah.
And make it a kind of more broader, weighty thing, but I don't think it was any more successful than Quest for Tanalorn.
No, I don't either. Very much not.
And I don't think it's needed. I don't think it's required to tie it all up. Just let them.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that the only good bit I liked about it was the White Wolf's son, I think, was because it went back to Gran Breton kind of tragic millennium, and it had shit Hawkmoon in it, which I kind of liked. But apart from that, it was mostly open.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about the Elric book, and that's just a question I was going to ask you, is like, out of all of the Eternal Champions, including probably ones we've not been just alluded to, who do you want to read about, really?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the trick, isn't it? Personally, I would rather read something new. I would rather read Moorcock doing something like, I don't know, the Black Corridor again. Rather than retreading Elric again.
Yeah.
I think he's said everything he's got to say about Elric. You know, I really need to read The Whispering Swarm and read the sequel. I know that he'll do as you would, naturally, do another Elric book. It will sell like hotcakes.
Yeah, of course it will, yeah.
So, in that case, God bless him.
But do you think if you just said, like, Michael Moorcock's doing a new Eternal Champion book with a new Eternal Champion, people would still, it would be the same thing?
Hardcore Moorcock fans would, but there's still a lot of people out there, and it's interesting when you look at some of the discourse on Instagram and Twitter. There's tons of people out there who love the Elric stuff, who say, I tried Hawkmoon, or I tried Corum, or I tried X, and I didn't get on with it, but I love Elric. Elric is his money spinner at the end of the day. So. You know, he would satisfy hardcore Moorcock fans, which is something I'd much rather read. I'd much rather read something, you know, more kind of Eternal Champion focused or related, rather than another book that it takes place entirely while Elric is strapped to a mast.
Yeah, exactly.
In Stormbringer,
that was I wanted that. You know,
and he's done all his graphic novels about Elric's dream quests, and I think it's been done to death. But that said, the moment it's out, I'll have it in hardcover and I'll be reading the fuck out of it.
Yeah, I'll be reading it. Yeah, definitely. But I think, as you said, surely just write something else.
So yeah, I mean, what's he got coming out? He's got the Whispering Swarm sequel. He's got the new Elric book, and there's
possibly an RPG.
Possibly an RPG, and there's the Saga Press Elric collections, hardcover Elric collections, which should have been out already, but they keep on getting delayed, and they've been delayed to the new year now. But I've got all them on pre-order. Very much looking forward to them. I suppose just as another comment, 60th anniversary of the Dreaming City.
Holy crap!
Yeah, Jade Design have released a 60th anniversary edition of the Dreaming City. It's amazing, really, that he's 82 and he's got reprints and 2 fresh novels about to be released. Oh, good luck to him. Good luck to him, and bless his cotton socks, is what I say.
Yeah, all the best.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, more to come. So I'm going to throw the last of this fucking disgrace down my neck.
I must admit, the fact that we're incredibly strong is affecting my ability to function, I think.
Yeah, well, you know what? We've come this far. And
I don't mean function, I'm perfectly fine. This one is really nice, if you get a chance for that one.
Yeah, you'll have to send me photographs of your cans.
I'll send some over.
I'll post them on Blog so everybody knows what disgraceful beverages we've been putting ourselves through.
I don't want to finish the evening with an 11% porter. I don't know about you.
Well, you don't have to, because the last remaining beer is our fumble roll. We don't have to roll for it, because it's all we've got left. So,
but I'll get some Ritz crackers to give me some salt.
Yeah, it's very wise. Unfortunately, I have no access to salty snacks, so I'm just got to suck it up. So, our final beer of the evening would have been our fumble roll. So it's always best, I think, to save the fumble till last. And so what we've got is a Brewdog collaboration with Tony's Chocolate. And it's called Tony's Hopper Lonely. And it's a white chocolate and raspberry milkshake IPA that rings in, I can't read properly, 6.3%, is that?
Yeah.
An odd number. You know, despite the fact I said earlier on I would put Brewdog in room 101, which by and large I probably would, I'm going to have to eat my own words and drink Tony's Hopper Lonely. And I've actually been to the Tony's factory in Amsterdam.
Have you?
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was Dutch.
Yeah. And I'd never seen Tony's chocolate before we went in the Amsterdam one. And then, of course, 6 months after getting back from Amsterdam, Tony's is every fucking where.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's about £1,000 for a small.
Right, okay, let's go. So, after kicking off the evening with a delicious cucumber sour, and then having a variety of various levels of hideosity in terms of dark beers, to finish the evening on a white chocolate and raspberry IPA.
It smells lovely.
It's a bit of an odd one, but let's give it a sniff.
Smells really nice.
That does smell good.
Yeah.
That does smell good. That reminds me of was it? I don't think it was Northern Monk. Who was it who did the Aunt Bess's Jam Really Poorly IPA?
Oh, I don't know. I think we dabble in that one.
I certainly did.
Sure
I went to the Hoptimist in Guiseley and I got 2 cans of that and 2 cans of the Aunt Bess's roast beef and Yorkshire brown ale. And actually, they were really nice. It was just a really nice brown ale that tasted ever so slightly oxo-y.
Slightly beef.
Yeah. Well, okay, it smells good.
That
is possibly the most pleasant beer of the evening.
That's not bad.
Yeah. I don't take it back, Brewdog. I still hate you, but I'm going to say that it's Tony. I'm going to congratulate Tony's on this. I'm going to say that Tony's have dragged Brewdog out of the gutter.
I don't mind Brewdog. I'm all right with them, apart from certain aspects of the political spectrum.
Yeah.
They did some good... It's like anything, and it did some good stuff. Did some bad stuff. I won't invite him to my wedding.
No.
Just say no.
No, me neither. There's a Brewdog opening in Bradford. I shall be sure not to go.
I've been in the Manchester one just because you can generally get in and have a drink. Accidentally buy something in a third for 25 quid.
Yeah. This is rather nice, and I don't know whether it's because of the disgrace that we've been drinking for the last 90 minutes. I'm not sure whether it would have been this good if we'd have started on it. Now we'll never know. No. We will never know.
Yeah, compared to some of the others, it's nectar of the gods, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is really. So we've run out of agenda items, so I think
they were quite vague anyway.
They were a bit vague, but you know what? Sometimes you just got to podcast and drink beer and not do too much homework.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That said, I think we shall raise a glass and say happy birthday to Phil.
Happy birthday to Phil.
Happy birthday to Mr. Moorcock.
Mr. M.
And happy birthday to this fucking podcast.
Yeah, good effort.
Even though it's second, like, Queen's birthday.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, does it? It's close enough.
Doesn't matter like heck.
Yeah, it's been good fun. I've enjoyed doing them. And it's been good rereading, especially the early Elric books and the Knight of the Swords I enjoyed, which was good.
Yeah. We should definitely... This is the thing that we need to fucking straighten out, right? There's other things we need to do. The podcast broadly needs to do Warlord of the Air.
Definitely.
It needs to do Warhound of the World's Pain.
I thought you were doing that with Phil.
Well, we actually put it out to a vote when we're going to do it, but because we are completely fucking hopeless at sticking to commitments, we've not got around to doing it yet. I think the fact that we actually stuck with the Halloween vote for Night of the Crabs is some kind of achievement. We need to do Behold the Man.
Behold the Man would be good, and it's short. Yeah, I'm happy to any of those. That'd be good. Sail on the Seas of Fate would be good. Not necessarily all of it. Reading the whole crossover piece would be good. And then I can't remember what happens after it. It's probably... There's a lot of books where he's just chasing Theleb Kana around the streets, only kicking up the arse like Benny Hill every 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's the bits I'm in for.
Very good. As opposed to completely bizarre Agak and Agak.
No, it's all the arse kicking. Yeah, absolutely. So no, I think it's fair to say that we're at the end of 2021. We've got 2022 to go at. We've got plenty of material to have a lay into, and hopefully we'll do it in person. We'll do it. We'll come up with a schedule, but in the meantime, we shall knock it on the head because I've got to go and treat Phil because it is her birthday after all. So, thank you for joining me in Derry Toms Laws to talk all sorts of cobblers about the last couple of years in podcasting and genre fiction and saying what we think needs to basically be yeeted into the sea. And I think you probably guess from my voice that our slate of beers has kicked my noggin in. Yeah. And I think we should probably wrap it up. So here's to you, good sir.
And you, mate. Nice to speak.
Thanks as ever to Loz for joining me in Derry Toms and bashing through some IT problems with aplomb, and beer, and probably a touch of gout. Interestingly, as we mentioned downloads and analytics when we were talking, a new stat came to my attention. Unsurprisingly, for an audio-only podcast, our YouTube stats are generally pretty negligible, or would be, but for the hits that two particular episodes continue to garner. And it was with much amazement that I clocked the 2021 summary and saw that we've had a combined total of 47,000 minutes listened this year. Small beans compared to YouTube big hitters, of course, but an amazing stat for this podcast. And, more amazingly, at least 99% of those minutes listened were last year's Halloween special on the rats, and, in the largest proportion, the episode with Robbo talking about Sven Hassel's Wheels of Terror. So we really must get round to part 2, Robbo. It's incredible, really, and the show is only on YouTube because Podbean automatically uploads to that platform, so we could just view that as a bonza bonus. In other news, Gemma Lowe's left us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's titled Moorcock and Beyond. A great, accessible and well-researched podcast. The host's passion and knowledge shine through and the guests are always interesting. Not just for Moorcock fans, really insightful, would recommend. Thanks, Gemma. Always lovely to get reviews, particularly nice ones. Those interested may have noticed it's been a month or two since I mentioned the journal. Well, it's almost complete, and I have some beautiful art care of Simon Perrins and Ed Scott for the next volume. I just need to finalise some rewrites. More news on that soon. And I'm similarly fiddling around with sound for the audio version, so now Wayne and I just need to carve some time out to record more instalments and revisit the earlier ones. But that's all for 2022. So that's all for this show, and for 2021. So thank you to all of our listeners, and particularly our patrons, beginning with those without tier. Sebastian Weetabix, Tim Cardos, and Anthony Paconti. And to the Chaos Engineers, finding social distancing something of a trick down in the belly of the good ship Don Blas, and struggling to hear Brute of Lashmar properly through his mask, although that may be a bonus. So thanks to Andrew Cicluna, Andrew Van Ness, Anthony Porter, Benjamin Fletcher, Dave Washman, Fred Quiche, Jim Kirkland, John Lays, John Timothy Watt, Jules Lawrence, Mal Pertwee, Matt Saltz, Nelbert, Simon Perrins, and Tony Milazzo. And to our Jugaderos, playing the tables as ever, and debating the effectiveness of lateral flow tests when samples are contaminated with excessive levels of Ackroyd's vortex water. They are Alexander Harris, Craig Ledley, Ian Stead, Loz, Taylor, Matthew Broom, Miles Reed-Labato, Graham Holden, Steve Round, and Tom Murphy. And, of course, massive thanks to our patron demons, observing this comedy of catastrophes from their galleries high above our mortal planes, although they are having to take their own flasks, as all the servitors and minions are self-isolating after grooming Ariok. Andy Clark, Ed Scott, Gareth Wilson, Imria, Joe Monty, Paul Hillary, Mortmain, Neil Burton, the OG patron Norman Beresford, Randall Gatlin, thanks for that beer, Randall, Robert McMillan, and Will Jameson. Thank you all. So that's all for now. Until next time, you can yak with us on Twitter and Instagram on the handle @BreakfastRuins. You can email us at breakfastruins@outlook.com. The website is breakfastintheruins.com, and we have our Patreon page too. So Merry Christmas to you all from everyone on Team Ruins. A very Happy New Year, and we'll see you in the next one, somewhere along the Moonbeam Roads.